in which it, sorry, if you could hit continue. I'm going to repeat that. I think the recording interrupted, but thank you for remembering to do that. Nelson Mandela's quote was, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children."
Right. That's a powerful quote. Very powerful. And what we wanted to do, just, I know everybody rushes around. I know I was rushing around and somebody said they're finishing their lunch. I was too, like 5 minutes ago. So I thought if we could just take a minute and put your one hand on your heart and your other hand on your abdomen and just take like 3 deep breaths with a longer exhale. Okay, you ready? Just helps us a little bit to kind of be present and be here. And we really appreciate you taking time out of everybody's busy schedules. But I think this will be a very, very worthwhile hour and 30 minutes, even less than 90 minutes here. And without a whole lot of further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to be inviting David and Luz to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about the movie that they're putting together. And then we hope we're going to have some time to break into a breakout room so that people have a chance to talk about it. And then we'll come back together and share what we've learned. Because what we found in doing these over the last year or so, or longer than that for me, but is that people really don't join a meeting until they get a chance to say something, right? Until they get a chance to participate. So we want to make sure everybody has a chance. Some people like to talk in a big group, and other people are more comfortable in a smaller venue. So we're going to try and do that. And without further ado, David and Luz, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Monica. We're going to do that in a minute, but I think before that, just to get to know a little bit everyone else already in the room, I'm going to share over here Mentimeter link that you can click on. And I'm going to activate now and share my screen so that we can see where everyone is coming from. So, what? Boom, 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 boom. Done. So if you click on the link that I just shared on Zoom, you're going to be asked where you're joining us from. So you can type there your answer where you are right now and click enter, and then we'll see that here so that we can see a bit the diversity of locations. Yeah. Can you also do Luz, or away from the phone? Well, we'll tell you. We're actually in Mexico at the moment, by the way. Luz and I are from Spain. But we have been moving quite a lot. And right now, since the last half a year, we're in Mexico. No? Before that, we were another year. But right now, we're in the coast of the Pacific of Mexico in Puerto Escondido. It's called the town in the state of Oaxaca.
California, Nevada, some.
Awesome. I think they have already everyone that answers. I'm going to stop sharing and come back to over here. Thank you for sharing that. I think we got a lot of diversity there. We saw lots of people from the US. Oh, actually, there's more. So I'm gonna share my screen again. Sorry, so you all see. So we have Calgary, Canada, Louisville, Reno, Finland, California. I saw Greece before as well. Yeah. And okay, so we got at least 2 continents. North America, including Mexico to Canada, and also some of Europe from Finland to Greece. That's pretty cool. And now just to tell you a bit about who we are. So we are Luz Olid and David Caballero. We are the founders of Evolving Education. And we have one of quite, I guess, non-common life story. We are scientists, originally trained as biomedicine research, that moved into enterprising, particularly then social entrepreneurship, then social entrepreneurship in education, and then into filmmaking as well. And so we're definitely an example, I hope, of lifelong learners, and that's what we really love, to keep on learning every day. And for the past 2 years and a half, we have been traveling around the world looking for the most innovative learning centers that we could find to learn from them. And we have been interviewing their educators or facilitators, the parents, and the learners themselves. And our mission in Evolving Education is to democratize these innovative learning practices so that more learners can become responsible for their own learning and take control of their own lives by facilitating dialogues rich in diverse perspectives, because education is a very diverse sphere. There's not a single solution. And creating or facilitating the creation of communities where people can keep on enriching themselves, sharing perspectives, and kind of embrace this continuous learning as an educator, as a learner, as a parent. And to bring this to fruition, we're working on a documentary film that is called Killing Curiosity. We're going to show you an extended trailer of 15 minutes in a little bit. And also on an online learning experience where we go beyond the content of the film into this online journey through all these places and get to learn from these different people's experiences, practices, and focus on some of the key questions that educators have asked us, that they were their main worries or the things that they really wanted to focus on. And that starts with personal development. It goes to how to inspire, how to build resonant relationships, and then also the keys, some of the keys to motivation from these different centers and guiding autonomous learners in a way. But there's kind of lots of content that we're putting into there. We're going to launch kind of the first version in September, October, which is going to be in Spanish first. It's called Expedición Aprendizaje, so the learning expedition. And as soon as we get that kind of validation, we'll also translate to English so that it can reach many people.
Again, we can share the trailer now. And I will ask you that, so we are going to share the link. It would be wonderful if you can all mute. I think you are all on mute, but yeah, so then in 15 minutes, it's just 15 minutes, we'll see you here. We'll come back.
So you see the YouTube link in the chat box. You just need to click on it, go to YouTube. Everyone watches this on their own laptop so that it's a better quality and everything. Make sure the subtitles are on because it's on English and Spanish. And then we'll come back on 15 minutes. Thank you.
I think you're finishing now, more or less.
As you finish the video, when you come back, if you can switch on your webcam so that we can see each other. And I just activated the recording as well. So actually anyone who is watching this recording of the session and wants to see the extended trailer, we'll share a link where they can ask for it as well at the end of the session.
And now we are going to share another Mentimeter. And what I would like to ask you is, in one word, what do you feel? How do you feel about it? What things trigger the video? And
And you can add several
many words,
questions,
yeah.
just clicking on enter every time you add a feeling or something about what it brought about in you. Same link than before, and now you should be able to see this question. How do you feel? Did you feel? If you want to enter again to the Mentimeter, we just left in Zoom the link. Helpful.
Confused.
Confused, helpful. Let's see what else is coming in.
What else did it trigger?
Encourage. Fire.
Is that helpful? Is the
It's a big one, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that this makes the words bigger the more than people write it. So inspired, also grow. Grew. Okay. Maybe we leave it here.
Yep.
It's that 8 people actually already responded, so that's pretty good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, now, as we said before, we would like to interact and talk to each other and get to talk about it. So we have designed a dynamic, and I'm gonna ask you, like, each of you in 1 minute, think about a question that comes to your mind and it starts with, how could we?
And this is a question that we're going to discuss later on in groups or with everyone. So think about that question. And maybe when you have it, you can raise your hand or something so that we know.
Yeah, so we know more or less.
And that's why it's a good thing to have the webcam switch on. So do you already have more or less one question?
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Now we are gonna discuss that question. We are gonna make rooms, breakout rooms, with just 2 people, and we are gonna share that question and discuss about it. We have 2 minutes to do that.
Well, it's not necessarily discussing about the question, but you have to come up with one question. So each of you has a different question. The result of that discussion needs to be not 2, but just one question. Okay. So I'm creating the rooms right now.
Bruno is gonna be alone. Oh no. Yes. Yep.
Did you get everybody into a room?
There is Bruno is alone in one.
I can go talk to Bruno if you want someone. Oh, there's on
Okay.
stage too.
Uh, or
Hello.
Hello, I can go into a room with somebody too. It's not a problem.
Okay, and then that can go with.
Anastasia, we can put you on room with Bruno, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think you need to accept, I think, the room.
There you go.
Uh-huh. It's right there. So she's right.
Understand.
I didn't
Anastasia.
get a request to join a room. Or I guess, I don't know if you can find me since I'm the host.
Uh-huh. That maybe.
Anastasia should. No, she entered.
Yes.
We
So now
need-
it's only us that are the hosts, the one that are not in a room. But
Yep.
you should be able to choose as well to enter one if you want to. I hope that the instruction was clear enough. I sent a message writing it as well.
Um,
Maybe it's enough with 3 questions. I don't know.
does somebody want to, if each of us chose one of the rooms with other people, just to make sure that
Yep.
we're kind of meeting the objective.
I can't see the room, so you need to assign me.
Okay.
Okay, I cannot assign you actually. Oh,
Not a
oh, you are actually
host, so
You are.
you're
I'm
on room 4. If you
There
but
should
you
be.
have to,
It's not
Next-
shown up yet on my screen. It didn't show. It didn't offer me an opportunity to join it, but I can try.
I can move you.
Okay, move me. It's fine.
You're 4? Oh, no, wait.
or in 2, there's only 2 people.
I'm fine. Wherever you move me, it's fine. It's not a problem.
How about I move you to 2? I don't, you might
Uh,
need to approve.
Let me try.
Yeah,
Move
I'm not.
to
Oh,
room
now I
2.
can see it. Now it's first time.
Okay. Which one do you which room would
Okay,
you?
so Monica is gone now. Cool. And
Looks like nobody's in 3. Monica T looks like she might be there by herself. I could move her to another room.
it's okay. I think there's a group of 3 and we'll get 3 questions at the end.
And she's signing up twice. She's in room 3 and 4.
I have, but in the 4 is where she's active because I can see her
Yeah.
green
the
dot.
green
Yes.
dot.
Okay.
Then
Shall I join group 1 then?
As you want. I think we gave them a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Then maybe
Yeah. How long is it for?
can you repeat?
When are we coming back?
Yeah, we'll come back and then do another with 4 people.
Okay. And how many minutes for this group though?
I think it should go.
How long? How long is this group?
It has
4
been on
minutes?
3 minutes right now.
All right. I'm going to go listen into group 1. I'll be back.
poder o algo así. Pero vamos a hacer una. ¿Está bien? Quizás
sí,
elegir,
ya.
elegir a alguien que sea el que lo diga.
Sí, porque al final somos lo más.
No, estoy siendo un poquito, no sé qué pasa. También es que tardan en pasarlo de la otra, entonces le das una vez y no sé qué tenerlo en cuenta.
Sí, sí. No, y hay que hacer la división más rápido. Son 9.
Lo ves abajo, te lo dice abajo, lo que pasa es que ponía de 2 a 3, porque había 4 alumnos. Creo que la gente quiere hablar sobre las distintas versiones de Self-Directed Learning y que sea así. How do you define that?
Ya, si le das, empieza una cuenta atrás. Sí, porque ya no tenemos que dividir la mesa.
Ujú. Muy bien, entonces tú ahora dices, ok, muchas gracias, espero que haya llegado a una pregunta. Ahora podéis unmute yourself. Share.
Les cargará la-
Hello.
Hello, welcome back, Bruno. How did that
Fantastic.
go? Was it very confusing or
Okay, we are all back.
half a bit, I guess?
Okay, now each representative of the group can share. This is the moment to speak and to have a dialogue about the questions that you have come up with, and then we can talk about it and let's see and share the different point of views.
Mhm.
So if each representative wants to write also the question in the comments so we can all think about it and they are more clear to everyone, that would be fantastic.
And we're going to have
3
topics
questions.
of discussion now
Uh-huh.
out of the 3 groups that people were grouped into.
I guess I'll start. I think we were group 3 with was with Cheryl, Claire, and who else was there? I'm not sure who else was in the group, but the question was, how can we learn more? Is that correct, Cheryl and Claire? Yeah, the question is just how to get more information and just kind of learn more about alternatives and alternative learning and
Okay.
changes in education.
Just to clarify, how can we learn more as educators or as parents, or how can we learn more as human beings and how to implement better practices in the schools so that kids learn more?
I don't know if Cheryl or Claire might, or whoever else was in the group might be able to clarify more on what they wanted.
It was Cheryl's question, and we were basically saying that we've all, you know, the three of us that are in our group we've got very different backgrounds in terms of, one is a teacher, I'm a parent in the UK, and I have 3 children that have gone through mainstream education, but I unschooled my daughter. I removed her from education because it just didn't suit her needs, and it was creating a huge amount of anxiety in her, which was actually stopping her learning. So I began to explore, you know, how can she still learn, but in a different way. So I don't know whether that was the question of how can we learn more, or how can we learn more about what you guys do.
Can I just jump in quickly? Just what Claire said, and then I'm aware that there are many groups of people, yay, that are pursuing this, and how can we work together a little more? Not that we should all be under one umbrella, but it would be great if we knew how to work together and brought everything, you know, together as much as we could.
Okay, so I see out of the questions in the chat, one of them is how can we learn more, I guess, as learners? The other one is how can we work together as educators and parents and people interested in a change in education? And the third one, is it how could we implement this in public schools? And then we have got a fourth, that is how can we help bring self-directed education to more families and make it affordable, cost to follow the reduce the cost of following their interests. Okay, so we got four questions. Maybe we can start with how can we learn more as learners? How can we help the learners to learn more? And people can chip in. We can have like how many minutes for this question do we have? We have a good amount of time actually.
Yeah,
no?
I think we can have 2 minutes to speak about this.
10 minutes per question. Sounds fair to everyone?
It is just, there's not one solution, so it will be wonderful to hear all your point of views and to share all your insights, and we can just start speaking, whoever has that call to reply or have some ideas.
How can we learn more as learners? How can we do that one?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think with my personal experience so far is connection. I think when you surround yourself with like-minded people who see beyond, who don't just see education as a school, as that takes place in a school, connecting with people around you that are going to support you. And there are so many resources you can draw on. And, you know, with my daughter, and she wakes up in the morning, I tried to, when I removed her from mainstream education, I tried to kind of, you know, do exact same at home. I tried to do the curriculum. I got all the books. I did the home education piece and got her desk, and she did really well. She was learning, but there was no spark in her. She wasn't bright. She wasn't happy. She was happy, but you could see that it was just, she was conforming. It was just like a tick box. Yes, I've done my maths. Yes, I've done my English. Yes, I've done my science. And I wanted to look at something completely different. And that's when I looked into child-led learning and unschooling. And it's taken a while for my own history to leave me, because I had a lot of guilt around, you know, she should be doing this, she should be doing that, because that's how I was raised, and people went to school and they got their exams and that's what they did. So I think when we're talking about child-led learning, we have to undo our own habits as parents and carers. First of all, we have to almost unschool ourselves and our own, you know, the story and the narrative that we've been taught through our life, to look towards something different. And that can be a really lonely place to be when you first start that journey. So I think connection and learning, you know, and surrounding yourself with groups, and social media is brilliant. Facebook have got some brilliant groups, you know, family, friends, your local groups in your town. I was amazed how many people are actually doing this without me even realizing they were doing it. So that's just my own personal thing. I think we can learn, we can do learning, you know, and help learners learn through connecting them with other like-minded people.
And I was going to add on to what you just said, Claire. We need to become learners again, right? And we have to expand our notion of what learning looks like. Because right now we've put learning in this little tiny little sliver that's out of context with the rest of life. So I think when we become learners, right? And we model learning in so many different ways, and we affirm learning with learners when they're not sitting at the desk and they're not in a textbook, and we can make it meaningful and relevant. So I think these are things that I think no matter what like I come from a Montessori background, someone else comes from another one. I think that's something we can all agree on, right? Regardless of our pedagogy but that idea of, I just wrote quote unquote a curriculum for training teachers or whatever on expanding what learning looks like, because right now it's just too narrow. It doesn't fit the world anymore.
I would like to say something there. So I think that it's true, Monica. We have restricted sometimes learning just to learn content and theories and knowledge per se, but there is so much into the social emotional skills, like speaking with another human, trying to reach an agreement, trying to understand how we feel and what are our needs to do whatever we need to do. So I think that that's part of learning, and we kind of forgot that inside the traditional school. And I think that it's really beautiful when we integrate that human being as part of learning. And also with what Claire says, it was relationships are the key. Is for me, I have been working in a agile learning center lately, and I started really scared at the beginning. Like, I don't want. There are offerings that you can share with the learners, and at the beginning it was like, oh, but I want to share. I just want to contribute to their interests, and I want to do something that is related with their interests. But then I realized that it was really hard to figure out what their interests were, because it was like, okay, there is not actually. We need a relationship to get to know each other, and then to find out which are their interests and accompany them in that process. And kind of how I started doing it was doing things that I was passionate about. It was okay, I'm gonna do this, and if anyone wants to join me, you can join me. And that way they started interacting with me, and I got to learn what are their interests, and then we could like start initiating a path of learning in multiple directions. So that core part of the relationship and trying to figure out who is that human, what does he like, what does he want to do, what does he want to learn, I think it's super important.
Can I say something? I'm feeling a bit like how do you say, like conflicted, and I was the one who wrote conflicted and confused, because I feel that we are getting into a spiral that I feel that we are getting almost every time when we have this type of discussion in this type of groups, because I don't think we should think on how us who are already agreeing on these matters should learn, right? Because I have the feeling that, well, I don't know all of you, but from the people that are here, I don't think anyone will say, I don't agree with self-directed learning and those type of things, right? So my question would be, how do we interact? What do we do about those others who don't see that, right? Because I feel that those are the ones who would benefit from learning about these things and learning and de-schooling themselves. But then if it's not coming from them, which is not coming because it's so painful, it's difficult, it's shaking their worldviews, what do we do? How do we, how do we get there and stop kind of like preaching to the choir?
Absolutely. Thank you, Bruno. And that, go. Sorry, Monica.
Thank you. Now I'd love to respond. That's the reason we actually started this group last year, is because my experience, and it's over a number of decades now, is that as people grow, then their notions of what learning looks like and their ability to shift and adapt and change also happens. So I think as we become lifelong learners, then we can handle doing that. And so when I talk with people who don't agree with me, I listen a lot. And I try and affirm a lot that we all come from a place of wanting to help children. So I do look for some agreement first. And, you know, there was a time in my life where I had lots of zingers, you know, and those don't help because they need to feel understood. And then we can see where we can start. But the journey to self-directed learning is different for every person too. And we have to meet people kind of where they are and then help them move along. You know, so you can't jump the Grand Canyon in one big jump. So that's a hard part. But it's one that, you know, that's what I found is that I need to find a way to understand where they're coming from. And most of the people have positive intent. There's always, you know, a few outliers out there that, you know, are just in it for their own glory. But I do think that we do have to meet, and I think Erin can talk to it. I've worked with some of you before. We have to meet people where they are and then help them along. And I think, how can we find strategies? I agree with you, Bruno. How do we find those ways of bringing people along? Because I used to run a program we called a guide along the side. How can I be a guide along that side? So I'd love to hear from other people.
Thank you, Monica. I think what Bruno said was brilliant, and it's a great jump into another question, which was how could we implement this in public schools? So I think we can also start discussing about that. And I would like to contribute to this topic because for me is key, like 100% on the things that we do. Like when we started this journey and we started learning about these different types of education, I saw that most people that were working in these spheres were pretty much working with unschooling families or with communities of families that were already working on this. But my cousins are in the public schools. I don't know, everyone in my family, it's in public school. Everyone I know, it's in the public school because that's the only option pretty much around. No one questions it. And that's what I want to impact personally. So 2 thoughts about strategies to reach there. The first one is
oh, go ahead. And then I didn't know you were going to go into strategies, and I was like, I love this idea. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The first one is to stop assuming that I know what's right. I don't know whether self-directed education is the golden mine and this is going to solve the world and everything else. We have seen lots of differences. We have seen people super passionate about Montessori, super passionate about Waldorf, super passionate about forest school, tons of things. This is human behavior. We are very different. And so rather than telling people you have to follow what I'm saying, we're trying to do in this learning experience that we're building is that we are starting with questions that are relevant for educators and then presenting a diversity of options so that they can choose and experiment, kind of using also design thinking where you go deep into your problem of your situation and then experiment with different solutions and see what works in there. And the second is starting with questions that are relevant for them. So after this journey, then we spend several months interviewing teachers in public schools and asking them, what are your main headaches? How's your situation? How's your relationship with your peers? And wow, there were a ton of things here that were uncovered and that helped us to shape that online experience from the public teacher perspective of things that are relevant to them, and then presenting them as answers or as possible solutions, that diversity, not telling them, follow me, I'm the leader. Rather, it's like, here is these 100 people, each of them talking through different perspectives. Make your own choices, your own decisions, discussing, kind of contextualize to your situation.
I want to add something. So yeah, is the teachers have to be also self-directed. They have to start taking those decisions by themselves and taking that responsibility. And for me, one way that I thought to, how could we start this? How can we trigger people to start questioning? That was what we thought about the movie. Like, let's use something that can go far away and that can reach different people. And then we did this 15-minute video to put all the main triggers in the movie and try to start dialogues. So it will be like, the idea of this is like, okay, we are sharing it with you and we are all in the same direction, but let's share this in the schools and with teachers, and let's start conversation with them and see. I think that it's a start to talk about these different options and have it this scary dialogues about it.
Erin, you wanted to say something before?
Well, I was just thinking how you were talking about choices, and I'm in this weird situation where I teach in a teacher ed program, and it's we're training teachers for 2 provinces, 1 territory. Sometimes there's people from outside of there, and it's really sad because in the province of Alberta, you don't have professional autonomy. You're really teaching these teachers to teach the curriculum. And then you get the ones in there that are having the best time because they know they're going to be in British Columbia, or they know they're going to be teaching in the Yukon, where they get to do whatever the heck they want within reason, right? Keep the kids safe, right? And so like my training was in Alberta, and I couldn't wait to get back to British Columbia when I was done. And then I went to Saskatchewan, where I got to open a school and do whatever I wanted within reason. Right? Wasn't allowed to talk about dinosaurs, but like within reason. It was project based. We didn't even have technology. You want to foster creativity and curiosity, get rid of the freaking internet. I can't believe like my students without technology were way more like no way more knowledgeable, hands-on than any other school that I've ever worked in. And I think that if you want to change public schools, you got to start the teachers, because if you're going to start the parents, they're going to boycott and they're going to rally and they're going to send letters to who? It's the teachers who can make the difference. And this whole pandemic thing has really brought out something interesting. The people who don't want to be in schools can choose not to be in schools because they have choices where I live. And school works for 90% of the population, because when school was out, we heard how people don't want to homeschool. And so it was really interesting that the push to get schools back in school, to get your kids back in school, and kids wanted to go back to school in British Columbia. I can't say that happened in all the provinces, because some of them said this was way better than going to school. My nephew, for once, he's in Alberta and he hates school. Like he just hates school, can't stand it. And he wants to do what my son's doing. My son's been teaching himself since 9 years old. But that's the thing is, you have to like provide either the environment for that, or foster it, or encourage it, or something. And so my how can I question is always about giving the kids the skills they need to be their own teacher, without the internet, with the internet, whatever.
Mhm. So what I got from you, Erin, is that even though we can create these dynamics in public schools, there's still a lot of restrictions
In
by the
some places.
government, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely in some places. And I think that the union in British Columbia has done a really good job of professional autonomy, is what they call it. Give people professional autonomy. If there are 10 outcomes, tell the teachers they only need to do 5. We don't need to be checking off every single outcome. And that was the biggest eye opener for me, because my teacher ed program was really about making sure you checked off all the outcomes. And then when I went to BC, because my first job was in BC, and they're like, what? You don't have a list of outcomes. Like, do a few things and carry on. And it was like, what? You don't want lesson plans? What? You don't want annual plan? Like, they treated me like I was a responsible professional. Can't believe
Which you
it.
are.
Yeah, but you know what? Then I took a job in alternative ed, where they treat you like a checklist again, because I do have a small job in BC and it's total checklist and paperwork and don't know flexibility, right? So who knows? But I'm not teaching. I'm doing the paperwork for kids to teach themselves. So it's kind of funny. The union, in the union jobs, you can do whatever you want within reason, but it's in the alternative education where you cannot in British Columbia. You have to be accountable. And you get paid 70% less to be accountable. So there's a lot of people are really saying things now. There's a lot of disrespect for the teachers' professionalism if you're going to pay them 70% less. So there's actually like a big flock out of alternative education, because you can do what you want in public school. People are finally figuring this out, right? You can be alternative like educator in public school just fine and get paid $100,000 a year, or you can be in poverty and push the alternative agendas.
Can I answer quickly to that?
Yeah,
Or-
go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah.
Over to you.
No, the thing is that in Finland right now, we are having the exact situation that you have described as optimal, meaning that teachers in Finland are recognized, they are in theory, well, we have a lot of freedom. Actually, you can do almost anything you want in the classroom. There are no inspections, there are no national tests and all of this. But still, we don't have even one democratic school in Finland. And the whole education in Finland is so conventional. So that's where my question comes. Like, is it enough that we give that freedom to the teachers if there is not like a inner need for changing things? So just to bring maybe that extra question there, that I don't think that's everything that it's needed. Or
I'm wondering, Bruno, whether with that freedom that teachers have in Finland, whether none of them have started experimenting with democratic decision making in their classes and things like that.
No, I mean, I don't know everyone or anything, but what I have seen and what I have also researched and what research says, no.
There is the point also that we sometimes we don't question too much our practices. We assume because that's what we have seen all the time, so we keep going. And that critical thinking of, oh, maybe is this good enough, or I can find other ways in which it can be done better. I think that sometimes we fall in this monotony of, okay, it's good enough, and then we don't experiment, which is something that might not be really encouraged either.
Is lack of awareness, or is it or they know that these options exist, but they think that they are not a good option?
The thing that I think is that when you have a hot plate of food in front of you and a roof and everything works kind of fine, you don't maybe see the need to change things, and that's the situation in here. So, but yes, my.
Okay.
Someone else have something more to say?
For Gary, that you're leaving before you leave, or she left already? No, she or not. Just to share very quickly that email precisely. So here are some ways to keep interacting with us. By the way, I just mentioned them quickly. So you can organize another dialogue with your community. For instance, a community of teachers in Finland, or a school, or a group of parents. You can access exclusive content from the film, contributing to our crowdfunding campaign. And there you will have also my email if you want to contact us for any other reason. Okay, now you have it.
I just reposted it because you had posted it to me.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, I think it's very important to keep talking to people who don't agree with you, because some people need to hear ideas more than once. It's just important not to attack them when you're talking, and to respect where they're at the same time, because there are people who I came to self-directed education, but I didn't come to home learning until one of my own kids decided they wanted to do it, right? And so, and again, I've been in alternative education for 40 years, but I wasn't doing home learning, and I wasn't necessarily doing self-directed when I started. So it's a bit of a journey along the way. So I really, really appreciate my mentors who were willing to meet me where I was and find, how they could help me grow. So as I grew, then my capacity for understanding what education can mean, and actually I've now moved into what I call transformative education. Like, I want to see how people can grow through not just accumulate knowledge. My grandson just graduated from Cornell, and that exactly is what the president of Cornell said. It's not necessarily the skills that you've acquired here that are going to carry you forward. It's the person you've become. And especially in this last year. And there's numerous studies that only 20% of the people who graduate from college with a skill will be working in that field or using those skills 10 years later. So it's not just the skills. It's the person that you become along the way that's going to enable you to keep learning and doing those things. So it's an important conversation whether someone agrees with you or doesn't agree with you, to keep having it, because we've been saying these things at least 20 years, 30 years. It's a long, long time. So the conversation needs to continue, and it has to continue in small spaces like this and in 3s and 4s. I think it's important. So we're going to actually put a survey in before other people have to leave. And we really would love your feedback on how we can keep promoting these ideas, bring people like, Luz and David to our meetings, spread this idea that as we grow, we can help education diversify and grow as well. So I'm going to go see if I can put that in there. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Monica.
I'm also going to add, I want to add to that, Monica, is, and it kind of goes along with what Carrie was saying, keeping up those conversations with people that agree with us, because there's a lot of people that agree, but there's a lot of people that agree that aren't willing to make the shift yet. They don't, and as Carrie said, it's like, how do you prove that that it works? And I think sharing just the anecdotal evidence, and if you are unschooling, and if you have experience working with children who are learning in their own capacity and not rather than being in a schooled environment, sharing those experiences and how it's working. Because I think the more we share, the more people are going to recognize that this isn't like, kids are just left up to their own resources and they're going to remain infantile their whole lives if they don't go to school. And, but again, I think sharing all of this is so important. Monica T, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes. Sorry for the bad sound, but I think we can implement SDE by just doing it maybe slowly with our kids at home, and then we can expand that by including doing a homeschool co-op that is self-directed education based. That's what I've done. And then we can try and expand it to a public school by maybe applying for a charter school, if there's such a thing in your area. That's what our group is going after. And it just occurred to me that even a small focused group of people who really believe in SDE could mount a very focused and targeted political campaign, as dirty a word as it is, but a political campaign to target the school board trustees, give them a lot of, a lot to work with, to think about, because usually it's the political groups that are just like keep on trying that make the change, because politicians respond to being forced to do stuff. They don't voluntarily do stuff usually, because there's people they're always trying to balance different people's opinions, right? So, this is not something that maybe everybody wants to take on, but it has been effective, like targeted, focused political campaigns. And last of all, people could try and run for positions in politics that would affect education, like a school board trustee. I mean, that's like way out there, maybe, but that's another way to bring about, to implement SDE. Like slowly, I imagine that getting into a school board trustee position, it would still be very difficult to shift the school board's direction, but we could start to make them safe by doing something small, like that 20% that Gary Hannum always talks about. Just one day or 1 hour a day for every day of the week, the kids can do their passion project. Something that makes everybody feel safe, but is kind of everybody gets a chance to dip their toe in that self-directed education. And what would be another way? Just open up a private school. So it's out there for people to try if they're curious. If you build it, they will come, hopefully. Those are my ideas for how to implement.
I love those ideas, except where I live, they are required to charge tuition now. So that's how they're trying to get them not to do it. Yeah, they have to charge tuition. So
Who's they?
any school that wants to open has to charge tuition now because they will have no funding from the government as of July 1st.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's what we're in my small little co-op. We do
Yeah.
charge small
Right.
tuition,
And
very little.
For people like myself who have been raising a child in poverty, that's the rich people's choice. That's not people like who I hang around, and we would, it makes me want to cry, but we would never be able to do that, and we still can't.
Well, I've been doing it for about $15 per child per day.
That's definitely out of our price range.
Thank you. I feel
And
like,
then
we
there's
have
one
some-
solution that I heard of. I don't know how to implement it, but I heard this lady in BC was speaking about direct access to tax dollars to like redirect I don't know where she got the number, the $1,000 that a citizen pays towards their taxes towards the school.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. There's a new bill coming out in July, and it's being revised for the following July, and it's just taking money back to the public schools.
Well, I don't know. It might not be able to happen in BC going forward, but possibly some other states or provinces or countries, or that might be.
Let me just kind of jump to another topic before entering into things that are only specific in specific locations and in politics, which is beyond our area of control. Because there were some other very interesting questions, like how can we work together? Anyone that would like to contribute to that question? We have like 12 minutes.
I noticed Carrie had her hand up for a while, so I wanted to see if she'd like to add something.
Yeah, and it was from before. I was just saying that, yeah, the way that I've had any kind of, I think, influence on people here in town has just been unschooling my kids, finding other unschooled kids, and then we have our meetups, but we invite everybody. And you'll notice literally the other families that are homeschooling, now this is within the homeschoolers, will, suddenly realize you can't tell who's an unschooler from a homeschooler, except maybe really messy hair seems to be a common thread that we don't force them to brush their hair, I guess. And a lot of the moms coming to me feeling more comfortable saying, so you don't fight with them about doing their math? And I was like, no way, like there's not a chance. It just won't work for us. And, as you can see, and I can share with different things and just showing that we're not that weird. And then by continuing to do this and just sort of, and now hopefully, taking our co-op and making it more of possibly a drop-off option for homeschoolers that could also be an option for people in school, and just kind of offering that, and then sharing things like your film showing that this is happening all over the world, and that there is finally evidence that kids come out of unschooling okay, and successful, depending on what you think successful is, and that it's not going to hurt them. More than likely, keeping them in school if they're miserable is going to hurt them. But having them, taking them out and letting them follow their passions. But I just can't see myself and even our group having any effect on the public school system here. Like there's no way, and I'm sorry, I need to change it now for my kids, and other people feel the same way that I'm dealing with, that are passionate to get something going now.
And I think, Carrie, you addressed that so well, is the way we grow this is by sharing what we're doing with the people around us,
Yeah.
whether they're homeschoolers or public schoolers, or eventually more people, I think, will recognize that your children aren't any worse off for not sitting in a classroom all day. In fact, probably better adjusted and able to communicate better and all of those things.
Yeah, and I get my bonus piece that I get to tell people is that I also have a 21-year-old who went through the school system. He graduated, he was an honor student, he did and he left school and he has no idea who he is and what he wants to do with his life. And I just kind of watched it firsthand, and I watched the spark go out of him, and he and I lose our connection. I knew it happened to me when I was a kid, but I thought maybe I was just different. I didn't like school. So I kind of have which my husband is terrible, refers to it as the burnt pancake. That first pancake always ends up, and so I thought that was the only way to do it. I didn't even know you could homeschool my older son. And I was a single mom for 10 years with him. So I just couldn't have even imagined it. And now, I've done a whole, total 180. So I talk with the other homeschool moms or even schooled moms, like, hey, I get it. I was there. My kid was grounded every night because he got a bad, mark on his math paper. I mean, I have changed my whole outlook on life, and life is short, and just kind of going all those different angles, but not being judgy is the other thing. To not tell somebody, you're doing it wrong, is the other thing I've learned. That, of course, is going to turn somebody off when I'm like, well, my way is the best way. I don't say it out loud, at least I pretend. All right, and thank you so much. I do. My kids, they're demanding I take them out and to go play in the pool, and I think that they may have reached their limit, and there will be bad language. So I'm gonna stay as long as I can. I did actually while we were on. Thank you so much,
Terry.
Monica. Thanks.
If anyone else that hasn't said anything would like to say a few words, because I'm aware that we have like 7 minutes left for the hour and a half, and I just would like to give everyone the chance to express themselves.
I think, I see Claire's hand raised.
I just wanted to add on to what Kerry was saying, really. With my work in England, I'm a practitioner for an early intervention service. So I work with children and young people that, it's a really awful term they use here, but they're school refusers because they're too anxious or too stressed to access mainstream education, and their families are under a huge amount of pressure and getting threats from the school that they're going to be fined if their children don't go to school, or or there's so much pressure on parents. And I think how we can try and engage people also, and I think when I work with families, is not to tell them what to do, but let them understand that they do have a choice, that their children don't have to necessarily be in mainstream education, and there are other ways. And I think in small steps, the more we talk about choice, the more we let people know there's a choice, because a lot of families that I work with are they've heard about it, but when you really kind of talk about the real fundamental parts of self-led, self-directed learning and child-centered learning, they're scared by it, which is understandable. I was scared by it when I first started, because my ultimate thing was, I'm going to fail my daughter, she's going to end up not having any qualifications. But I can see that's not going to happen now. But it's quite a scary choice, I think. So to try to alleviate some of the stigma and some of the fear around it, and to let people know they've got choice, I think is a really good starting point, rather than going all in and trying to do the big push of, oh, you should be doing this. Nobody should tell anybody they should be doing anything, but what you can do is empower them, to give them the information they need, so then they can go and do their own research. And I think that's a really good starting point. it's almost like marketing it, but in a really, really subtle way of saying, actually, you know, there are other choices other than school, or, you know, signposting them to different places and getting them connected with other people that are in their community that can help support them if they do decide to make that transition and, you know, change the way that their child is learning.
And I'd add to that, I think it's so important too to stay aware of any regulations that our governments are putting on, or any changes that they're making, so that we keep our freedoms to be able to send our children, or allow our children to learn how the best way that they can. And I think with COVID, I've seen already, I know a lot of states are looking into changing some of the homeschool laws. So I think really trying to be aware and working together in groups like this and sharing that information is so important, especially at this time. All right, we have 3 more minutes. So David and Luz, David and Luz, any final words from you?
I think that's been.
And you put in the chat a couple times how to reach you, how to become more involved in what you're doing.
Yes, I'll share,
again.
I'll share again. And thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts and your experiences. It's been super enriching for us. In a couple of weeks, we'll be sharing the same trailer in Aero and Aero conference, and we didn't know exactly how things were going to go. So showing it to you and getting your feedback and your thoughts has been super enriching. And yeah, as Laura said, there are a couple of ways to keep interacting with us. So one is, if you want to use these materials in your own community, your school, your community of families or of learners, there you have a form to ask precisely that. And this is going to be a completely free event. The only thing that we ask for is that we share exactly the same links so that other people can keep on organizing more events. And the next link is, if you want to access some of the contents from the film, you can contribute to our crowdfunding campaign, or you can also just do it out of love. And because for the past 2 years, we have been funding absolutely everything that we have been doing. And the last one is my email, and Luz obviously will also get it, and that's for anything that you want to reach out to us. If you want to have a discussion with us, anything that we can help, definitely count us in.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Let's start to have these conversations with everyone, so the word spreads and it reaches more people. And I know that sometimes it's uncomfortable that because it's Bruno, I think, wrote it in the chat, is something that is really attached to everyone because it's part of how we have grown up. But I think we can start having those conversations.
Absolutely.
Either
Monica, would you like?
And Monica and Taryn that couldn't be here today, but they are really the leaders of this event and the ones that have made this possible, and that trusted us without being in completely a different country, different time zone, and everything.
No, we so appreciate you coming, and this is what we hope to do, is to, if we can have these meetings once a month, if you have people that you'd like to invite to come to talk, if you'd like to come together once a month and brainstorm some ideas that we can, I call it design thinking is really it. We need to prototype ideas on a small scale. I don't think we're going to find just one way to do this, as Claire said. There's going to be many different ways in many different environments. And I know some of you are happy talking in a large group and some of you like to have smaller groups. Please, you know, that's the kind of feedback we'd like, so we can certainly have the ability to set up Zoom rooms. If this time doesn't work, we can do it at other times. So we need your feedback, and we hope you'll invite your friends to join our group, because as our group grows, you know, everyone grows together, right? And come to Aero. Aero is going to be the last week in June. aeroconference.org. It's a wonderful place to meet people from all over the world. I think it's you know, I'm going to be presenting, other people from our group will be presenting. We're going to be presenting on strength-based learning and how it develops resilience. And this year we're focused on the adults. How do we help adults do this? Because when an adult can do it, then they're going to be more likely to give the youth an opportunity. So we'd love to hear from you all. And thank you so much for giving us your time on a Saturday or Sunday. It's still Saturday for
Yes.
everybody here. Late in the day for some of you, but still Saturday. We need
Have
to
a
find a time
wonderful
for our down
rest of the
under.
weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
And
Take
we
care.
will be meeting the second Saturday of every month. Next month, we will be doing a recap of the Aero conference. So if you're not able to attend, or if you are only able to attend a portion of it, we're hoping to see as much as we possibly can and share what we've gained from the Aero conference at our next meeting, the second Saturday in July at 10 a.m. PST. So thank you all again for joining us Saturday.
And can I add something really quick?
Sure,
For the ones who are attending to Aero conference, please get in touch with the Huba app because it's